Morning, everybody. Today, I'm going to be talking about the influence of AI on social engineering. Now, as I'm sure everybody's already heard by now, there's been some massive advancements in AI in the previous year, with some extremely powerful AI tools becoming available to the public, like ChatGPT, Google's Bard, and Bing's Sydney, and with some AIs even able to mimic some creative human behavior. The main advancement, however, that I want to focus on for today is deepfake voices. Now, deepfake voices can be created when an AI uses deep and natural learning algorithms to create a synthetic voice. These synthetic voices are almost indistinguishable from real voices, as they can even mimic accents and speech mannerisms. All you need to create these synthetic voices is a 10 to 15 second audio clip of someone. And there are many free services out there that help you clone these audio clips. Some services can even convert live, which means as I'm speaking, it converts it to the synthetic voice and then outputs it to whoever needs to hear it. This has become an extremely dangerous tool for social engineering. Now, what is social engineering? Social engineering is a manipulation technique which exploits human error and trust to gain sensitive and personal information. There's 4 steps usually associated with social engineering, with step 1 being prepare. The fraudster would look for background information about you, anything they can find, hobbies, personal interests, anything they can use to connect with you on a personal level. They would then infiltrate, which would mean they'd call you, they'd message you, even on social media, anything really to start up a conversation, start building trust. Once they've earned enough trust with you, they'll try to exploit it. They'll try to find a way to get you to give up some sensitive personal information, something small, maybe even your first dog's name, which happens to be a security question on a bunch of bank software. After they got this information, they'll then attempt to disengage. They'll cut ties and they'll just block you and they'll move on. Now, with the new AI rise, this has given birth to a new approach to social engineering. This is social engineering using deepfake technology to easily gain trust. Now, what the fraudsters would do is they'd still have to prepare and do some basic background checks, but this time they'd rather focus on your close friends and family, anybody that they think you'd be able to trust. They'd then attempt to come in contact with that close friend and family, where in any means necessary, they'd even call them, just a sales call, anything, just a simple voice message. They just need 10 or 15 seconds of voice to be able to clone that person's voice. They would then call you using that cloned voice to try get you to give some money or any personal information away. And I think many of us would fall for this, because if, for example, it was a loved one like our mother or our parents calling us, even if it was from an unrecognized number, a lot of us would want to help in any way we can, so we'd send money. There was an example of this happening in the UK at a large scale when a company in the UK lost almost 220,000 euros to a deep fake voice call. The scammer managed to clone the CEO of the company's voice and called in requesting funds to be transferred to a third party. The person who answered the phone sounded identical to the CEO, even mimicking a slight German accent the CEO had at the time. Luckily, some of the funds were able to be recovered. Though I do believe that was only because the scammers got a little bit greedy and ended up calling 2 additional times after the first success, which then, of course, are suspicious, and they informed the bank, which then reverted the funds. Luckily, there are some tips that we can use to avoid these fraudulent strategies. The first one you can look at is looking for long pauses in between sentences or distorted voices. Some of the cheaper and less advanced AI still needs text input in between responses to generate the synthetic voice. So any long pause is usually indicative that there is, something fishy going on. AI still hasn't been able to, well, at least the less advanced ones haven't been able to deal with human typos. So if they are using one of these text generated ones, it might get distorted at some point when the AI eventually runs into a typo. It's also important to be skeptical of any unexpected calls. If you're expecting a call from your parents or anybody, then it's probably safe. But if you get a random call from someone who you haven't spoken to in 6 years, it might be a little bit fishy and you might have to just be on guard. If someone does happen to call from an unrecognized number and you recognize the voice, hang up immediately and just quickly call that person from your contact list. If that person then answers, you can explain the situation to them and they'll be able to tell you if it's like real or fake. If they don't answer, you can call the unrecognized number back, but just be on guard then because that's already a little bit fishy. Don't trust caller ID though, because that is possible to be faked. You can also attempt to ask a personal question to whoever's on the other end, because even though they might have the person's voice, they definitely don't have their memories. So you can ask them something that only that friend or family member would know. And depending on the answer, you might be able to just figure out that it's a fake. And just as a general rule, be careful providing any form of personal or identifying information to anybody who's on an unverified call who you haven't spoken to in a while. Cool. Thank you.